getting back on track, helping people in the food and beverage industry with e-commerce and navigating the Paycheck Protection Plan. I have got three wonderful panelists today. Vito Pagano from Getting Local, Colin Horsford, who's going to help us with the PPP part of the program, from Harmless Straws and Horsford Accounting and Advisory, and last but not least, Gabriella Palmieri from GPAL Creative. So I'm going to ask Vito first to do a little 2-minute introduction. I'd love you to help us understand your company and how it was affected by COVID-19, and then we'll go over to Colin and finish with Gabriella. So Vito, 2 minutes, please, if you would, and thank you for being part of the panel today.
Sure. Thank you, Paul, and good morning, everyone at the Queens Chamber of Commerce. So Getting Local, quick overview. It's the first of its kind technology. The goal of our platform is to create hyper-local discovery of all things to do in your community. So all residents of Queens can download the app for free on iOS and Android and learn more about different restaurants, activities, and entertainment in their area. So we launched Getting Local in January of 2020, and we were very excited of the success and the adoption with the platform. We were working with companies from Madison Square Garden to the Wildlife Conservation Society to Ripley's to local restaurants within Queens. And come March, we saw the effects of COVID and how all the businesses within New York State that were on the platform were terminated because of the restrictions and protocols in place with social distancing. So it was exciting in the beginning, but many challenges and constraints we encountered beginning of March of 2020.
Great, thank you. Colin?
Hi everyone, my name is Colin Horsford. I'm the founder of Harmless Straws, where we sell biodegradable paper straws. So similar to Vito, our business was going very well up until about mid-March. So what we do is we provide a lot of paper straws to restaurants in and around the New York City area. And of course, once restaurants were forced to close, a lot of our business dried up. I'm also one of the managing partners at Horsford Accounting and Advisory, where we help a lot of small business owners with the PPP and EIDL applications. Again, we were hit there as well because, of course, a lot of small businesses went under. A lot of clients were no longer able to pay or pay as much as we normally charge. So, of course, we took a hit there as well. Things have been turning around now that restaurants are starting to open back up, with the city streets and how they're having some of the restaurants open up on the sidewalk. So that's been great for us. And also some of these businesses, now that they've gotten the PPP and the EIDL, they've been able to, keep their business running and keep their employees on payroll. And we're able to save some of our clients from bankruptcy.
Great, thank you. And by the way, just a bit of housekeeping. If you're interested in asking questions, we're going to do the first 20 to 30 minutes will be focused on Vito and Gabriella. Colin will spend the second half of the program talking about the specifics of PPP. If you have questions out there, please put them in the Q&A and we will get to them. Thank you. Gabriella?
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Pleasure to be here. So my name is Gabriella Palmieri, and I am the founder and owner of GPAL Creative, which is a boutique marketing agency. I work with a lot of small to mid-sized businesses across various verticals, including food and beverage, home improvement, education, sports, and also nonprofits. With each of these businesses, with our clients, we work hand in hand with the owners of the small businesses to develop custom marketing plans that fit the needs of each business to help them reach their goals. Obviously, goals have been evolving and changing over the past 6 months, so it has been a challenge, and also through these challenges, we've also seen successes in some of our pivoted marketing plans over the past 6 months or so.
Great. So Vito, I want to go back to you for a sec. If you can tell us some stories about how the platform has helped, the challenges your clients are facing, and how you're helping them, and the more specific you can be without divulging names you may not want to divulge, tell us about how the platform has really helped your clients connect with their audiences or bring traffic that might not have otherwise come to them?
Sure. So with the economic pressures, especially on businesses today, with the result of COVID-19, we're seeing a lot of staff have been let go or on furlough. A lot of the marketing budgets have been cut. Some of the acquisition costs of a restaurant, for example, marketing in Queens to local residents on different social media platforms could be costly to get an acquisition, not so much branding, but an acquisition could be costly. So we tried to create a level playing field for all businesses to be digitally discovered, all on one mobile app. So what need we have fit from a consumer standpoint is that we developed one platform, Getting Local, that connects a consumer to all things to do, whether it be a restaurant, a tour of Met Stadium, a local walking tour to discover the history of Queens, or just visiting the Queens Museum. Our platform brought all that information into one area. On the business side, what we've done is, other than creating a level playing field, is we've removed a lot of these economic pressures, the third-party interferences that are charging commissions for each sale or reservation that they book. So our platform has empowered these small businesses to gain new revenues, new customers by digitally marketing to them in a local area. And most importantly, when a sales facilitator in our platform, that business maintains 100% of the revenues. So we're seeing that our app has evolved the discovery platform, because paper brochures, marketing within magazines, typically the economics are not there, the ROI is not there to marry into the consumer acquisition. So our platform has really lent a financial benefit to these businesses by getting new eyeballs, new customers through their door, and allowing them to digitally market to them after they leave through push alerts to get them back visiting a second or third time.
And can you tell us a little bit about what a typical, how you're measuring the success of your clients, and what are they seeing in increased traffic, and how are they measuring it and attributing it to your platform?
Sure. So within our dashboard, as a business comes on, and again, they can come on at absolutely no cost, and they can launch their very own local campaign, but we provide analytics to them. How many people have looked at your campaign? How many people have engaged with your campaign? How many people have clicked through your campaign to make a reservation at your restaurant or to select a time and booking date? How many people have redeemed it in a retail environment? One of the other attributes that we've built into the app is push alerts. So if a restaurant, for example, is slow Monday through Thursday, they can reward Gabriella and Colin, loyal customers to that business, by sending them a push alert. Outside of the app, no one sees it, but all those consumers that elected to follow that business would receive some type of loyalty and reward incentive.
Got it. Great. Gabriella, tell us about engagement on your client side, the business side, and then the connection to and benefit to the business, the enhanced experience of their clients.
Sure. So now more than ever, with the clients that I have, especially in the food and beverage and the restaurant space, digital marketing has become increasingly important. So digital marketing is a term that I find often intimidates some of my clients because they have no idea what that means. So digital marketing is basically anything that promotes your business through your phone or a computer, which, let's face it, most of us spend most of our time on all day long. So through my services and working with some of my clients, we can really break this down into about 4 main categories. The first and foremost that I would suggest as being something to really pay attention to are your local listings. What is a local listing? A local listing is when someone Googles your business and you have on the right-hand panel of your screen the information about your business. It also could include your Yelp listing, your open table reservation platforms. If you're on a delivery service, it could also be your own social media. And in fact, sometimes your own website is promoting information that hasn't been updated. So why is this important? Now, obviously, Google previously had kind of mentioned that everything was shut down. So it automatically shut a lot of restaurants down, which with the ever-changing regulations, this is now different. So one major issue is that if your business is listed as closed on Google, or it has the wrong hours, or it says that you don't deliver when in fact you do, you're basically creating a gigantic obstacle for people searching for your business. So the first thing that I would say is important to do when it comes to digital marketing, and maybe it doesn't seem like marketing, but it does fold in, is definitely just ensure that your information is correct. And don't discredit your own platforms. Sometimes with being crazed and busy and trying to adapt to everything, you forget that your own website is telling people outdated hours or something like that. From there, really, for restaurants specifically, the packages and the offerings that you're offering your customers are individual to each location and each business, but be sure that you're communicating that correctly. So what I mean by that is if you've developed curbside pickup, or you now have outdoor dining when you didn't before, or maybe you have a restaurant that has developed its own little shop where you're able to sell certain artisanal goods or something like that. You want to be sure that you're explaining that to your customer base so that they know how they can interact with your business and support your business even during this critical time. So ways that you would do that, of course, if you have your social media channels updated, you're constantly engaging with your fans, the people who follow you on social media, on your website, and things like that. So that's kind of number two. So one is just making sure you're accurate with all the information out there. And the second is that you're clear on what you're offering so people know how they can support your business. I think that, that's definitely individual. So what might work for one restaurant or food and beverage business might not work for you, but that's okay, as long as you're clear with people of what you have to bring to the table. Then the next option would definitely be social media. So social media is another thing, kind of goes up there with digital marketing. People look at me and they're like, this is too much. I don't know what to do. What's the difference between Facebook and Instagram? Why do I need it? And what I think is great about social media, especially right now, is budgets are increasingly falling and what you have to be able to put behind advertising your business. Social media can provide you with a tremendous ROI for a very small budget if used correctly. So of course, you're going to be updating those channels, whether it's Facebook and Instagram, or if you have something else that you like to use. Some folks are on Twitter. Regularly updating people with what's going on, how you're, staying compliant to the new COVID regulations. That's a concern of many customers out there. And then the other thing that people don't always take advantage of are ads on social media as well as on Google. So what is that? With a budget as small as $5, you can promote a post of yours. So if it's a new dish or that you have outdoor dining, you can select your local audience and you can say, hey guys, this is what we have to offer. You'll often see these ads as a sponsored post on your own Facebook or Instagram. So using something like that allows you to really hone in on who the people are that are going to come into your store and letting them know what's going on if they might not already know about your restaurant before. One of my clients, actually, we work with a pizzeria client, and he was struggling at the beginning of COVID because everything was changing. And he's a giver to the community. He supported the community for 15 years, donating to hospitals, but that just wasn't clear. He's open from 10 to 10, but no one knows that he's open from 10 to 10. So we took to social media. I started working with him in April. And since then, we've increased his following. We've gotten him coverage on the donations and things that he's been giving back to the community. And in turn, we've grown his curbside pickup orders. We've grown his catering orders and really his overall exposure. So the social media has translated for him into sales and to traction in store, which has been really great.
How did he find you?
Actually, a recommendation.
Okay.
So it's been great. Something that I love about what I do is I work personally with business owners day in and day out. And so forming that relationship really helps build my relationships with my customers and my clients. And then oftentimes I'm fortunate enough to get the recommendations coming the other way.
Got it. Vito, I want to go back to you for a sec. A little bit of storytelling around benefits of your clients, and also how do your clients find you? How do they know about about getting local?
Sure. So we're, as Gabriella said, we're doing a lot on social media. There's obviously huge followings on Instagram and Facebook. So we're doing like campaigns where we're partnering with specific businesses like the Bronx Zoo, the Queen Zoo, part of WCS, the Wildlife Conservation Society, and we're promoting them throughout boosted campaigns on Instagram and Facebook and driving consumers to download the app. So some of the ways that they're learning about getting local outside of Instagram and Facebook is a few hotels in Manhattan have in-room branding of getting local because it's a contactless solution. So we're seeing paper, brochures, magazines are being removed. So being a touchless, contactless solution, we're able to create hyper-local discovery of all things to do, both in your community or while traveling. We're doing a lot of marketing throughout LinkedIn. We're doing mail drip campaigns as well. So we're targeting people like Gabriella that are marketing executives within the tourism, restaurant, hospitality space, just to introduce them to a new platform that creates discovery.
Is there a story you can tell us about a client who has experienced the benefits or could track the benefits and attribute it to getting local?
Sure. We're working right now with Unlimited Biking. As they began to reopen, we were running social campaigns to promote their sales. We also did that with Heli New York. They seem to be a very popular company that everyone knows, helicopter tours throughout the city. So what we were able to do is drive new awareness to their website and new bookings, new revenues to their business by letting people know and announcing that they have reopened. And if people are looking to plan things to do for the weekends, this is an option, a helicopter tour, the zoo, this is an option for them to participate in. And while doing this across social media, we were successful with driving new customers to their business.
Fantastic. Gabriella, before we shift over to Colin and talk about PPP, is there anything you want to talk about that I didn't get you to talk about or failed to prompt you on? And Vito, I'll follow up with the same question with you.
I think it's just that, I mean, I am a small business myself. And so I understand the pressure and the frustration that comes along with everything that's been going on. I mean, from a marketing standpoint alone, you no longer can go off of the buying patterns and habits that people used to, that were trends that you could have proven results with. I would just say, obviously it's easy to be discouraged, and I'm not trying to sit here and be all rah-rah, but at the same time, I do want to say that there really is hope as long as you're willing to try something new. And if you're willing to try something new, and if you are willing to do the best you can to persevere, there are definitely ways to get around what's going on right now, and in some cases even find perhaps greater success than you thought. And there are very different, like I said, my business, we're very personal. It's very individual to each business, but there are a lot of options that you might not know about. So I think definitely being open to them is great.
That's a great point. I do think there's opportunity out there, and I speak for myself. I tend to get in a bunker mindset where I'm being protective, which is opposite of what we do as entrepreneurs. We live our lives kind of reaching out, and suddenly we feel attacked, and we're like armadillos, we're in a
scary,
phase, right? And then we're not spending money or looking at opportunities. So Vito, same question. Anything you want to say that we didn't cover that you think would be of interest to the listeners, the viewers?
Sure. We're seeing things begin to reopen in the boroughs and in Manhattan, Long Island. So even though there's different protocols in place, we're seeing things begin to reopen. So I think this is a really good time to not sit back and wait for things to reopen, but to start putting your brand in front of different consumers within your community to let them know that you have these safety protocols in place to ensure consumers visiting that business, are going to have a healthy experience. But more importantly, letting them know that you're open and you're ready to, take in new business.
Yeah, proactive.
Proactive.
This is the time to be proactive, not to be in your shell,
Correct.
but
Not reactive.
using marketing, the internet,
Absolutely.
social media, whatever that is, because I'm a dinosaur. I don't understand any of it. But definitely to let your companies speak to people. The other thing I would add is with declining ad revenues, chances are your dollars are going to show up more than they did, right? Because no one else is spending. So if you're in a space spending money and your competitors are not, you will be more visible. So you have a chance.
We
at grabbing,
found
right?
that in the analytics, exactly. If you're targeting properly, you definitely get a good bang for your buck, so to speak,
Right.
on ad spend.
So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Colin, we're going to switch over to you now. I want to talk about PPP. I want to talk about other facilities, assistance facilities that are out there. So why don't you just give us an introduction to PPP and take us through sort of the arc of what's happening to businesses in order to use federal support to stay alive, or state support, or city support.
Sure, no problem. So thanks again for the intro. So with the PPP, or the Payment Protection Program, it was created by the government's Small Business Administration in light of the COVID pandemic. And the idea behind the loan, it's a way to provide funds to help business owners to keep their employees on the payroll, as the name suggests, Paycheck Protection Program. So businesses are able to avoid laying off or furloughing their employees and minimizing the disruption to their business. Aside from the PPP, the government also created the EIDL, the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, and also the Main Street Lending Program. And what these two loan programs are for is, for example, the EIDL specifically, you're able to get up to $10,000 in emergency grant money right up front, completely forgiven. You never have to pay it back. Then there's also the EIDL loan as well, which you can sign up and apply for. And that is a loan. It's not forgiven like the PPP is. And there's a Main Street Lending Program as well that helps small business owners within certain criteria. So the government created at least three different programs specifically for the COVID pandemic, through the CARES Act. And there are also other small business loans, like the Small Business Administration 7A loans that business owners can apply for. When it comes to the PPP, so this was released back in April. And with the PPP, the original rules, they specify that you had to, maintain a covered period of at least 8 weeks and spend at least 75% of the funds that were distributed to you on payroll and another 25% on non-payroll uses. That has since been updated. So now the covered period is at least 24 weeks, and you only need to spend at least 60% of the money that you received on payroll, and the rest can be spent on non-payroll items such as mortgage, rent, and utility payments.
So if I may just interject. So if, for instance, you didn't, after 24 weeks, use up all that money, let's say you got $100,000 and you spent 60, now you have $40,000 after the 24 weeks, what happens to the status of that money?
Right. So I was actually just about to get to it. So the loan itself has the unforgiven portion of the loan has a 1% fixed rate for 5 years, and then up to 10 months deferred. So if after the 24 weeks you don't initiate forgiveness, then you will have to pay back the loan at 1%. Now, I think those are great terms because right now the Small Business Administration, the prevailing rate for small business owners is around 6 to 7%, right? 1%. Aside from it being very low, it's actually lower than inflation. So if you take into account inflation, which is 2% every year, you're actually paying back less money over those 5 years than you receive. So I think it's a win-win, even if you don't apply for forgiveness. But I can walk through, and that's what I'm going to get into next, how you apply for forgiveness and maximize the amount of forgiveness that you get for the loan.
Great.
Some of the other things that were changed on the loan, as mentioned, you must spend at least 60% on payroll costs. You can spend 100% and have that amount totally forgiven once you apply for forgiveness, but you can allocate 40% to non-payroll costs, as I had mentioned. You also get a loan deferral, but you must rehire all of your employees by December 31st of this year. So again, going back to the name of the loan, it's the Payment Protection Program, and the goal is to maintain your employees and keep them on the payroll. So in order to do that, you have to show the government that you rehired your employees and reestablish their compensation levels by December 31st, because they don't want to just give you money and have you lay everyone off and then just keep the money for yourselves. So you have to rehire your employees. Now, a lot of people ask, well, what if an employee decides they don't want to come back to work for some reason, either safety, or they moved, or they're just unable to, or it may not make economic sense to them. So the government does provide some relief for that. And in doing so, you can rehire someone else. So dealing with numbers, if you have 10 employees as of February 15th, 2020, you can lay off 3 people and then rehire 3 more people, or you can bring back those 3 people on the payroll, as long as you have 10 people making the same amount as they were on February 15th of 2020, right? So a couple of things to keep in mind with the loan itself. The due date is this Saturday, August 8th. I suggest you apply as soon as possible. And the reason I say that is because a lot of the loan facilities actually stop taking applications at least 2 days prior. So whenever you apply for the PPP, the government, first the SBA approved bank or loan office, they take your application and they submit it to the SBA. Once the SBA gets it, they provide you with what's called a PLP, or a loan reservation number. And once you get that number, then they allocate funds for you so that they can distribute it to you at a later point. Now, whenever people say, they're applying for the PPP and the deadline's a certain date, what they're really saying is you must have your PLP number or your loan reservation number by that date. Generally takes 2 to 3 days to get that number. So that's why some of these loan offices stop taking applications 2 days prior.
Got it. So was it a bad idea for me to buy the red Lamborghini with my PPP money? I want to be clear about that.
As long as you can justify it.
Did you hear the story about the person?
Yes, I did. There are a couple guys who did that. Yep.
Like, okay.
The government came down very hard on them for it.
Yeah. What don't you get about it? It was not a transportation protection plan. It was a payroll protection plan.
Right.
That's great. Can you take us through, is there anything else on PPP? So if I have 10 people, 3 people decide not to come back, I can rehire new people for that, right?
Yes.
If I end up only hiring 5 people, right? Because in our industry, the jobs may not exist by the end of the year, right? Our business may not come back. Does that just mean that the money that I haven't used for payroll or rent or utilities will just go into loan and just become that loan, that 1% loan?
Well, so it's actually it's sort of a complex calculation, because, for example, if you say 6 people leave, so now you're down to 4 and you only rehire 1 person. So now you have half of the employees that you had in the beginning. Well, what they will do is they'll reduce the amount of forgiveness by the proportion of employees that you are short. So if you are down 50%, they will reduce that portion of that 50% of forgiveness. So you'll only be able to recover, or at least be forgiven for that 50%. Now, keep in mind, that's if you choose to spend all of your proceeds on employees and payroll. You also can allocate 40% to non-payroll costs, such as mortgage, utilities, and rent. So if you want, you can spend 40% on mortgage, utilities, and rent, and then as much as you can on employees. Now, they do provide for bonus pay, hazard pay, and also some pay increases. So if you realize, okay, maybe I did not rehire as many people as I need, but you want to incentivize those that did come back, because they are taking a risk, they're taking public transportation, or they're, exposing themselves to the virus, you may want to give them some kind of bonus or hazard pay. You're allowed to do that as well. But in a shorter answer, they do reduce the amount of forgiveness by the amount, the proportion of people that you did not rehire. And that portion becomes unforgiven and becomes a 1% loan over 5 years.
So that's calculated by head count, not by dollars spent?
No, it's actually calculated by what's called the full-time equivalent. So
Right.
They take 40 hours, and then you have to count up the amount of time that all of your workers work, because they need to have a standardized calculation, because some workers may work 30, some may work 42 hours, some may work 18 hours. So they create what's called a full-time equivalent number divided by 40, standard 40-hour work week, and they come with a full-time equivalent. If you're short, they'll reduce your forgiveness by that proportion that you're short by.
regardless of how much you've spent on those new FTEs. If you've spent more, let's take $10,000 and you have half the number of employees, but you've spent on those, let's say you've had 10 employees at $10,000 payroll, you bring 5 back, but you've spent $7,000 on them. Is it calculated at the 5 employees out of 10 or at the 7,000 out of $10,000 that you've spent in payroll?
Right. So they do limit you to the amount of hazard pay and bonus that you can pay someone, because you don't want to just pay half the people 100% of the money. So they first take into account the FTE, the full-time equivalent.
Right.
And, then they also limit you to the amount that you can give to each employee.
Relative to what they got before.
Relative to what they got in the past. Right. That's correct.
Got it. Well, that makes sense.
Right.
Gabriella, Vito, do you have any questions on this? This is one of those, Gabriella, if you think social media is complicated, I think,
I was just going to say, yeah, this is far more complex for sure.
Yeah. All right. So you can ask questions of Colin or anyone else through the Q&A. Do you want to take us through Main Street lending? Because I think this is one that people may be less aware of than they are of the PPP loan.
Sure. Before I actually get into that, do you mind if I just, speak a little bit about the forgiveness portion of it?
No, not at all. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Sure. So when it comes to the forgiveness portion, again, it is a very complex application, and you have to, if you want forgiveness, you have to apply for it within the specified time. There's certain, tips that I tell my clients to do to ensure maximum forgiveness. So the first thing I always tell them to open up a new bank account and set the money into that, or transfer the money into that bank account. And the reason being, whenever they're reviewing your transactions, you want to be able to point them directly to the transactions that are applicable to the PPP. Then you also want to create separate accounts to track the expenses. You need to make sure that you have your payroll reports, either some type of payroll summary or your Form 91 payroll tax filings, and also a record of your payments for the eligible non-payroll expenses. So if you're, applying for forgiveness for your mortgage or for your rent, just make sure that it was instituted before February 15, 2020. Make sure you have all of your payments and your receipts and spent checks on that, and make sure you have all that for a minimum of 6 years, because the audit period is 6 years. And then going back, and just to tell a quick story about, working with one of my clients and how we were able to apply the PPP and get them up and running despite the COVID pandemic. So this client specifically, they're a fast food restaurant. There are 2 locations, one in Queens and one in Brooklyn. And, they did have a dine-in area, and they also did delivery. So he said that, of course, because he had to shut his dine-in area, he now was forced to do takeout and delivery alone. So I told him, you can spend some of the money on your employees, but I actually suggested he spend it on restructuring his business and the physical location, and focusing and maximizing his takeout and delivery orders. So he was able to do that. We actually got on the phone with Grubhub and Uber Eats, and because of the pandemic, they were able to lower his fees. So that way he spent less on fees, because they hit you guys really crazy whenever you're using Grubhub, Uber Eats, or Postmates, or any of those. We were able to lower his fees and also restructure his restaurant so that way he can maximize the output for takeout and delivery. To date, and I spoke with him last week, he said that sales have risen 78%. So he's actually selling more than he was in the past, and bringing home more in net income because he has fewer employees, but he's also able to pump out more orders because now that he has more space for prep time, he can shorten the prep time and also get a lot of orders out.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, I mean, I think if we've all learned anything from this, it's that there's a lot to learn. I will not use the word silver lining because I still haven't even seen one remotely, but there are businesses that have figured out how to do better by doing less. I know personally, we were in a business where we were turning over a tremendous amount of business, but not necessarily making money on all of it. And now we look much more carefully at incoming business to evaluate whether it's worthwhile.
Right, exactly. Right. So, and going back to your question for the Main Street lending program, it is very similar to the PPP and the EIDL. It came out of the CARES Act, and it's available to any U.S. company that was established before, I think it was March 13th, 2020. You must have fewer than 15,000 workers or less than 5 billion in 2019 revenue. And also you cannot participate in the PPP program. So if you did not get a PPP loan, then you can apply for the Main Street lending program. So the whole idea.
I'm sorry, if you got PPP, you're not eligible for Main Street lending?
Right.
That I didn't know.
Right. So when it comes to the, it is available to nonprofits as well. And when it comes to the actual loan itself, again, going back to the PPP, it's meant to keep businesses operational and workers on the payroll, right? So, again, it's an interest rate of about 3% plus LIBOR, which is the London Interbank offer rate. So a very low interest rate, and again, you pay it back over a certain time, very similar to PPP and EIDL. The government has provided that, and also the 7A loans, so that businesses can apply for that and hopefully keep their doors open and also keep employees on the payroll.
Okay. And what's the process for the application for Main Street lending?
All right. So you generally have to go through a Main Street new loan facility to do the application. I would suggest going through your accountant if possible, because again, one of my clients did decide to go at it alone, and they applied for the loan and got a lot less than they were given. But you generally have to go through either a new loan facility or priority loan facility to do the application, as opposed to the PPP where you just click a link and fill that out.
Got it. And how do they calculate your eligibility on the Main Street? Do you know is there a formula for that so we could say to ourselves, this will be worth it or won't be worth it?
Right. So to be eligible, again, you have to have at least 10 employees. Your operating margin must be greater than 2%. You have to have a certain amount of cash on hand, and you can't receive any certain other types of loans from the government.
Okay.
And you cannot combine that with the PPP.
Got it. So Colin, we just got a question. Can you tell us how do you charge clients? Like, what are your fees? So if I were interested in bringing you aboard to help me with the PPP or the Main Street lending, give us a range of how you calculate your fees. And Vito and Gabriella, I'm going to ask you the same question.
Sure. So we charge $1,200 for the applications, or for the advisory for the applications. And the reason we do so is because we want to make sure that our clients get as much as possible. Going back to what I mentioned with one of my clients, they decide to go at it alone and apply on their own. And we, gave them specific instructions, telling them not to apply under certain banks, because certain banks are known not to give maximum amounts for their, on the PPP. They ended up going at it alone. They applied for $40,000 and they were only given $20,000. Right. They came back to me and asked, is there anything I can do? And unfortunately, there wasn't anything I can do, because once you're given that loan reservation number, the government specifies how much you can get and reserve that amount of money for you. So you have to take whatever you're approved for.
Got it. And Colin, your clients are where? Are they Queens-based, New York-based, regionally? Like, what's your area of where are your clients drawn from?
Sure. So a little over 50% of our clients are in Queens. We do a lot of restaurants, nonprofit organizations, and medical facilities. We also have some clients in Manhattan, some in Brooklyn, and some all over the country, a couple in California, Texas, Florida, Charlotte as well.
Okay. So you can help people nationally.
Yep.
So Vito, let's go to you if you don't mind. What do you charge? Where are your clients drawn from? Like, what's your area, and how do you establish what it costs to hire you?
So our platform is free. We wanted to, get the community thriving again. So for any business that wants to come on and build a local campaign, there's no charge. They can come on. We don't ask for a credit card. They can build their campaign, make an announcement that their restaurant is open. They can offer incentives, and it costs nothing to come on board. We do have billable events, which comes with, similar to Gabriella, multiple impressions of that campaign throughout the app. We can send outbound email, and we're coast to coast. So our app works off of GPS. So it'll position those campaigns to people that are locally. And as things reopen, I live in Long Island, it could promote to me different offers and campaigns within Queens to allow me to plan a night out with my wife.
Great. Gabriella, how do you charge? Yeah, I'm interested in hiring you for one thing or series of things. I'm a small,
Right.
like, how do you
So-
determine how to charge?
A bit of a complicated question, only because it's dependent on what you're looking for. Really, we pride ourselves on working with pretty much any budget someone has. So if you say to me, hey, these are my goals and I have $200 a month to reach them, we will come back to you within that budget and say, okay, this is what we can do. And of course, we'll always say, if we feel strongly about something, let's say you're looking to run social media, you want to do an ad campaign to build your audience on social platforms to bring more people into your store. We'll give you what's working within your budget. And of course, through coronavirus, we have certain payment plans and things like that, discounts that we are offering for customers that are, going through it just like we are. So I would say we work our budgets, sometimes our monthly subscriptions, in the sense of if we're doing your social media, it's a monthly plan that can start as low as $200, can go up from there. Website projects are a bit more costly depending on what it is you're looking to do. And then your Google ads and stuff like that, we break it down between, operating costs, creative costs, and then your ad spend. So that's like a dual budget there for us, if that makes any sense.
It does. So if I'm coming to you, there's no single thing you would recommend first. It really depends on who I am as a company and how you think I need to reach it. But it's not as if you say, well, generally we lead with social media and then follow with the website.
Yeah,
right?
and I, not to even make this sound like a cop-out, but it's really true. Our consultations are free, so we always sit down or Zoom with our potential clients, and we learn about their business, and we learn about what their goals are. And from there, we kind of intake that information and put our best plan forward, both for your monetary value and for your lead generation value. So yeah, it depends on a lot of factors for sure.
Got it. And Vito, is there something that's been more successful for a particular sector, something within getting local that has been, that you can lead with and say, this is this promotion, or we think that if you're coming on, this would help you a lot. By the way, you're on mute.
So, thank you. So, to answer that question, I don't believe in always discounting your product or service, especially today. There's a lot of financial constraints on businesses. But, often when you see some type of incentive, I'm just going to say restaurants are typically slow Monday through Thursday. If you want to offer a free appetizer with every 2 entrees, some type of call to action really gets people interested. They want to engage more and come visit the retail establishment. So not that you always want to discount. If you have live music, we know everything's outdoor seating, patio seating, rooftop. So if you have live music, it's good not to offer a discount, but just promote that you have live music tonight on your patio.
Yeah, I love that. And Colin, are you doing like free straws with every PPP review?
I do send out a lot of free straws, but we try to give any kind of incentive for our clients to come in, especially when we're working with our restaurants. We usually do a deep discount the first time around, have them try out the straws, and then we take it from there.
All right, so I'm going to ask you to get out your crystal balls. Gabriella, what do you see happening in the next 3 months?
Well, over the next 3 months, it's really anyone's game, right? I think that it's going to depend a lot on, right now, New York, knock wood, is doing pretty well with the number of COVID cases and things like that. But I do feel that a lot of adaptations that businesses have made over the past 6 months are going to be here to stay for a bit. So I think that the way in which people interact with other businesses and local business is going to be definitely interesting. But I also think there's this sense of people wanting to rally around local businesses that they know are struggling. So I think that this new insurgence of energy and focused in being local and maybe not purchasing everything or using Amazon for everything is definitely here to stay. I think people are starting to realize that they know so many business owners that they now want to be more loyal to. So I think that the way in which the local and small businesses communicate with these people that are ready to support is definitely going to be important over the next 3 months for sure.
Thanks. Colin, next 3 months, what do you see?
I think that the government will release some other stimulus. I know they've been working on it, and I think it may be needed to save a lot of the businesses. From the last I checked, I think at least 25% of restaurants and small businesses were shut down, at least temporarily. I mean, some of them, unfortunately, will be shut down permanently. But I do think a lot of the changes that have been made during the pandemic are around for a while. Just today, New York City said they'll be bringing back their open streets and eating in the on the sidewalk and in the middle of the street. So, I think a lot of those changes will be here for at least another year or two, but definitely within the next 3 months. And hopefully the government can provide some other type of stimulus to prop up businesses and, keep some of that revenue coming in.
Got it. Vito, what do you see coming?
That's a hard question. I'm very interested to see what happens the next 90 days with cold weather coming into New York, how that's going to affect restaurants and whatnot. But I have a bright perspective. I do think, as Gabriella pointed out, like New York is doing very, very well. I believe we have less than 1% right now that's affected by COVID. So, I have a bright perspective on the future in the next 90 days. I think we're going to get a good handle on this. I think hopefully indoor dining will reopen and our communities will start coming back with those changes.
Got it. Anything else we want to share at this point? Anything that we didn't cover that would be of interest to our viewers, listeners?
I guess I would just say, keeping in mind from what we've heard from Colin and Vito on their prospective businesses, I think that a lot of this is focused on change in behavior, both for the business owner and for people interacting with businesses. And I think that what I'm seeing, at least, are in creating these new revenue streams for businesses, in forcing people to really take a look deep inside their business and see where they can optimize it, whether it's cutting down your staff, increasing your prep area, and doing more deliveries, or optimizing the way in which you spend your money on different things. I think these are all learnings that actually benefit us beyond just coronavirus. So again, not to always just sound so optimistic, because this has been a terrible time, but I do think that if you take the time, if you invest your time, and if you invest some money into really optimizing your business, these changes to your business are things that can benefit you beyond just what we're dealing with right now.
Yeah, it's very interesting. So some of the things I've heard today are: be proactive, try to get out of your shell, right? Realize that this is a time when you may have more visibility than your competitors. Find and manage your government grants and loans, right? In other words, know how to get them, and then know how to manage them and make sure you're maximizing the forgiveness. I do love the idea of this is a moment where local may trump, I hate to use the word, national distributors, right? Where you can play the local card effectively. Vito, I love what you had to say about not discounting, because I think we do tend to discount, and the better way to do it is to enhance free dessert with dinner for two, free drink, whatever it is, rather than saying we're taking 20% off, where you sound like Applebee's. No offense to Applebee's, please. Where you want to enhance the experience of the guest by making it actually cost less, but not necessarily, quote, discounting. And then you can also pick the thing that you are choosing to give them, and pick something that you can afford to give while you're enhancing their experience. So anything else you guys heard that I didn't just cover in that very, very brief summary that you'd like to share?
Apply for the PPP before August 8th.
Yeah, exactly. All
Thank
right,
you, Paul.
well,
Doing a great job.
yeah, I want to thank you all. It's been a lot of fun. I wish you and your clients tremendous success. And, you know, it's a moment to be strong for your companies, be strong for your employees, be strong for the community, and for the Queens Chamber of Commerce, who hosted us today. I want to thank them and wish you all well.
Thank you so much, Paul.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
All right. Take care
Bye,
now.
everyone.
Bye-bye.